Good evening and welcome along to the NUFC360 podcast. My name is Stuart Montgomery and tonight we will be covering Sunday's game against Manchester City, the impending game League Cup clash against Tranmere Rovers, and of course all of the transfer rumours surrounding Newcastle United. Tonight I'm joined by a wonderful group of guests. We have Joel, Ez and Max. Welcome along, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thanks so much for joining us, gents. And thank you to anyone watching along tonight. Please, if you are in the comments, get them in there and we'll do our best to get to them. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to help us grow as fast as we can and reach NUFC fans just like you. So let's get started. We're going to start with the match on Sunday, the first Oil Clasico to really live up to its name and actually be a classic. We'll start off with Joel because you are, as we've been discussing, the only member of the pod tonight to actually be at the game. You lucky son of a gun. So we'll discuss with you our first question of the night, which is, Joel, was that the best performance at St James's for a very long time?
The short answer is absolutely yes. It was from start to finish. Well, maybe other than the first 5 minutes was the best home display I've seen in probably a number of years. I mean, if I was to compare it to a game, it was 100%, just like the Arsenal game from start to finish. The atmosphere was there. The crowd before the game, you could tell the Miggy Almiron flag after the whole Grealish situation. I just thought the game was excellent. We played so well. And yeah, I mean, atmosphere, best I've seen in a long time.
Max, what about you in terms of the performance and the result? How are your feelings after the game? Were you elated, disappointed? How were you during and after the game?
Yeah, it was a weird one because I only saw the first half. As I've said to you guys in our chat, I was on my way to a Sunday League game. So I watched the whole first half on the tube and I behaved like a lunatic because after the first 5 to 15 minutes, we were actually going after them. I was jumping around, I was screaming, I was cussing, and people were looking at me really wrongly. And so it was an absolutely fantastic experience for me because when I arrived to the pitch where I was playing, it was 2-1 and it was half time. So in my head, we won the game 2-1. Nice. So, but if we're going to compare it to Arsenal, which you always said there, it's in terms of what I could gather from the atmosphere, it was pretty much the same. The only thing that's different is, of course, the result. We won the Arsenal game, we drew this one. But this also, you need to compare which side we were facing. City is the best team, arguably, in the world. And Arsenal is not there yet, but they're steadily progressing. But at that time, they weren't. So in the end of the day, I think great result. Even though we were up 3-1, but still, as I said, the best team in the world, arguably. So you can't really blame the players or something. Of course, it's stupid to do mistakes, but they're world-class players in that team, so you can't really do much about it sometimes. But overall, good performance.
I mean, that's a really good point about the atmosphere, Max. As on that topic, in terms of Max talking about the significance of that result. What are your feelings about that? I mean, it is obviously a significant result. Some people would say it's seismic. What is your feelings on that? Do you think it is a real effort of significance or is it a one-off? What's your feelings there?
Firstly, right, I'm I'm as happy as you guys, right? My heart was racing all night. I couldn't sleep, right? It was absolutely a fantastic occasion, but I'm going to be the Debbie Downer in the group, I'm afraid. And just to say that if you look at the stats, I mean, we obviously, you mentioned it's a world-class team, right? We're not going to match up to them statistically. It was a great game. We were great in possession. But I think the game played into our hands in a way because we were constantly countering, right? We were the underdog team. We were constantly countering, and that really suited our game down to the ground. But if you look at the stats, City dominated possession. They had 68%. They way better passing rate than us. They had way more shots than we did. Nick Pope kept us in the game several times. There were 1-to-1s that we got away with. So, I'm not by any way sort of denigrating what we did. I think we worked really hard. It was a really special day. But when it comes to those teams that we play the way we're expected to dominate or expected to break them down, that's when we can really judge how far along we've come with this new style of football. because City were playing open. They didn't care. They were like, you can go ahead because we can just go ahead and score when we like, as they did when they scored 2 goals in 5 minutes. So yeah, don't mean to put a dampener on it, but it's just a one-off game in my mind.
Well, Max or Joel, on that one, I mean, I suppose if you're being slightly negative and you're looking at it from the point of view of they allowed us to come at them, and you compare it to, say, the Forest game or the Brighton game, what are your feelings on the significance? Does that change what you feel Newcastle can accomplish this year, or where they will end up?
I think it was probably a well-executed game plan. In the past, we've played City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham at home. In maybe 9 out of 10 of the games, played 5 at the back. And I think that's because we didn't have the quality. And I think the significance now is that we do. And, Eddie kept the 4-3-3. And yes, we did play on the counter, but I just think we now have the ability to run and take the game to City in teams like that. And I think that's what we did. The way they used the 2 wing backs and pushed them into centre mid, Eddie Howe had Almiron and then Maxi in behind them. So, I mean, comparing it to the Brighton game, it was a lot better. I think we were very lucky to sort of gain a point from that. But I think in the sort of like long term, it is a significant game in my eyes, and it shows that we are gaining quality to get closer to consistently go toe-to-toe with teams like City.
Max, Black Man Balk, I'm going to always mispronounce that name, I apologise. He said that Maxi or SM has had, in his words, the best game ever, and a lot of people have said this about him. In terms of your man of the match or men of the match, did anyone stand out particularly for you?
Yeah, the obvious one is Maxi, because he was behind all of our goals. Basically, he played Almiron with the cross. He played Wilson through, and he won the free kick, who led to Trippier's goal. So he had a lot of part in it. But you can't forget the work rate of the midfield 3. I think those 3 were absolutely running miles and miles and miles. Joe Linton, Joe Willock, running behind, creating space, covering for the attackers. Bruno played on the yellow card for like 85 minutes of the game and still kept his head, even though he showed a lot of passion. That's for me. So I want to give the whole midfield 3 man of the match, because them 3 together were absolutely fantastic in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, on the preview pod that I happened to be on, the discussion was just that. It was that in order to get something out of this game, our whole squad needed to be at 11. They'd been playing at Lushkin, and as you said, they did just that. It's very difficult to pick just one. Looking at Alan Shearer's team of the week, there's 4 Newcastle players in it. There's Pope, Trippier, I think Joelinton, and possibly Almiron, and maybe Wilson as well. Maybe wasn't Wilson, I'm not quite sure, but it was Almiron and SM. That's the must be who it was. Which tells you quite a lot. I completely agree with your chat about Pope. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Not even just his shot stopping, because that was his top notch, but his decision making. He came out at the right time. There was a lovely through ball played through. I think it might have been for Haaland. It was for Haaland, and he was out like flash, perfectly timed. And this was whenever City were in their ascendancy. It was 3-3. They were pushing for that winner, and I think it showed a real grit and determination, which the whole team had, as you all have said, especially exemplified by that midfield 3. Joelinton is class. He's just class. Like, I've never seen a player in all my life change so much, both in the opinion surrounding him and how he plays. It is baffling to me how he was ever played up front. I don't understand. He's so perfectly suited to the role he plays now. It is absolutely fantastic. We'll move away slightly from the game, as painful as it is, because it was great. And we'll have a look at some of the talk around the club. Now, if you're on Twitter or social media, in any way, shape or form, it's been a very busy couple of days and really tiring, because there's so many hearsay and rumours and about certain players and pending transfers and things like that. So we're going to have a look at that now with you all. And the first one we're going to start off with is João Pedro. So we're looking at this as who do we need in the window? Who do we need? Who do we think we'll get? First one we'll talk about João Pedro, the ones we talked about an awful lot. Fabrizio Romano has come out yesterday or last night and said here we go. It's all done, dusted, signed and delivered, or just waiting to be signed. So everyone's assumed, great, that's us. Everyone gets very excited, and all the other British journalists came out and sort of downplayed that. And even Eddie Howe today said he wasn't aware of it, but maybe I was a bit premature. Well, I suppose one-word answers. Let's not dwell too much. I think most people on here being on social media and we're tired of the to and fro. We don't know anything. Just your gut feeling at the moment. And we'll go Max, Joe, and then Ez. Will he sign before the end of the window? Max, yes or no?
Yeah. Yes, I think so, because it all seems to be leaning that way. Even though it's some contradicting reports, in the end, if the interest is this large, you often see the player move. If nothing radical happens, like Everton bids higher than us and gets him, but I would hope he would pick us before Everton. Looking at,
he'll never go to Everton. It'd be mad. You don't want. He's already in the Championship. He doesn't want to go there next year.
Exactly.
Joel, yes or no? Is he signing?
Yes, I think he will. I think the discussions that have been going on for the past week or so have clearly advanced, and I think Fabrizio might have only been wrong once this window. So I mean, if we're the second team, then it's just very unlucky. But yeah, I think he'll sign.
It's close to the Watford owners, I think, isn't it? It's probably it's done, but not quite. The I's aren't dotted and the T's aren't crossed, as I say, and probably more than likely. Ed, what do you think? Yes or no?
We got to let's go. Stu, we got to let's go. That means it's happening. But I will say, I don't personally care if he comes or not. As I started off with, I don't really care if he signs, right? Then I hear he's signing. I'm like, yes, get in his signing, brilliant sign. Now he might not sign. Well, I don't care anymore. So whatever, just get someone.
Well, I mean, on that note, I'll stick with you, Ez, on that. If he does sign, how will he be used, do you think, in what position, and will he be a starter? Let's also assume, and we'll come to Mr. Wilson in a minute, that Callum Wilson is fit. So in a sort of our strongest team, does he start? How do you think Eddie Howe will use him if he does get signed?
No, I don't think he starts in our starting 11 if everyone's fit. Although there's a speculation on Twitter that it's between 2 and 4 weeks that Wilson's out. Although that's social media, so that could be complete rubbish. But I actually, what I really think is that we should be buying a player to replace Callum Wilson, which is probably probably not the opinion of most, but I think he's too injury prone. I think if we want to manage his injury, we need to buy a player to supersede him, because to manage his injury, we need to not play him every game. So we need really someone else to be the main guy and him to come on or play in cup games. But I think, in answer to your question, he won't start in our starting 11 if everyone's fit.
I don't disagree with that on Wilson, by the way. I really like Callum Wilson, but he is his hamstrings are made of blancmange, so it does seem to go every 5 weeks or something, at least at some point in the season. The only reservation I have around him being eventually replaced is actually more, he's one of these like mini captains that Howe sort of appointed. Trippier's one of them, and obviously Lascelles is the captain, or club captain, and Callum Wilson's another one. So he's obviously a big presence. But then again, as long as he was happy enough to stay around, he could still do it, I suppose. Joel, how do you see João Pedro being used, assuming he signs? Do you think he starts? Where does he play?
Well, I think on the sort of face of it, he's coming in as a backup striker, but he's fairly versatile, as in he can play on both wings and as an inside forward as well. And I think he would be used he'd start every single cup game. But I think there was a lot of slander sort of when we were first linked to him. And I'm not sure why, because I think this could be wrong, but I think he's been 17 years of age and 20. He's been in the Prem twice with 2 pretty poor clubs. And yes, he needs to work on his finishing. His stats weren't great, like the goals and assists sort of side. But I mean, when you look at him, I've watched a fair few, compilation videos and saw him live and stuff when he was at St James's Park, and he looks a player. I mean, he's 20 years of age, he's Brazilian, and the way he runs with the ball, his ball retention. I mean, for 25 million, it seems to be a good deal.
Is there something, Joel, ASM about him and how he plays?
Yes, possibly. ASM is one of a kind. Like, in my sort of time of seeing players, I've not seen anyone like him. But I suppose the way that João Pedro does run with the ball, and he's sort of just like habitual nature to beat defenders, then yes, you could compare them, I think.
Max, I'm going to ask you two questions. One of them is from me, one is from our comments. Mark White has asked, and it's a relevant question because it is what we've sort of been talking about. Do we take too long on transfers? I'm assuming that means, do we dwell too long on them? Do we not just go? Or is it a incremental bidding process rather than just giving them a lot of money? What do you think? Or do you agree with the transfer policy, I suppose, that we've laid out this summer?
Yeah, I think because we don't want to waste money, and I think in the start of when the new ownership took over, all the deals they signed is often needed to be signed off by the Saudi Arabian part of the ownership, and if that takes time, that takes time if you want to improve a bid and you can't do it directly. You need to go to them and ask if it is okay. I don't know if it still is like that, but it was like that in the start. I hope it has changed now with Dan Ashford as our director. But it's also their financial fair play, I think. Yeah, they need to structure the deal smart because I think they would probably want to sign someone else other than Pedro, not only him. So they need to structure the deal smart so they don't blow everything on one player and then can't use any money left to spend on maybe a right winger, which we still need, in my opinion. So they need to be smart. And if that takes time, I'm okay with it. It just that can't take as long as we miss out on targets because we take too long on one target, or the transfer window gets too close. At the end of the transfer gets too close, and we stand here with nothing. So.
Have we missed out on any targets this summer?
No, I don't think so. Maybe we have made more like chosen not to go for certain targets.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, it's a good point. I'm just sort of picking up on it. More of a question. I'm not sure myself. Has anyone decided to go somewhere? So apart from Ekatike, I suppose you could argue, but then he always wanted to stay in France in January, and then when you're the best club in France, obviously you're probably going to play with Mbappe and Messi, aren't you? It's not a crazy decision. We'll go back then, and you've mentioned it already, Callum Wilson. Obviously, there's news about Callum Wilson feeling his hamstring during the Man City match, off after about 70 minutes. Was told to be a precaution. He had a standard or a procedural scan. It wasn't anything that was, I suppose, to worry about initially. But the rumours are maybe 2 to 4 weeks. What do you think? Do you think we should try and go for a striker regardless? Do you think we should wait and put our money in a different pot? What are your feelings? Can Callum Wilson last the season?
Well, it's so inevitable, isn't it? And it's only taken 3 games for him to have to come off. Even if he's fit and well now and he starts the Wolves game, it's going to happen again at some point. If it's not next game, the game after. So I think we need to concentrate on the striking department. Like I said, I think we need a striker to potentially overtake Callum Wilson as the number 1 striker at the club. I don't think we will, by the way, because I don't think we have the money to pay for a top level striker. So it will probably be like a Pedro type signing. But yeah, I think we need to fully concentrate on either a out and out striker or one of those strikers that can play on the wing and has some degree of versatility, like Pedro, for example. But yeah, that's definitely what I'd focus on. Ideally, we also would be great to strengthen the central midfield. Potentially the left wing as well, provide some backup to ASM, because if ASM gets injured, what do we do? But yeah, for me, it's striker is number 1.
And Joel, if we are going to potentially address that, are you in agreement with Ez? Do you think we should be even looking at a striker? Mark has asked in the comments there about, not Mark, Black Man Bag's been talking about looking at loans, which is something the club's talked about all summer, to be honest, about potentially using that loan market. Do you think we should be looking, whatever it takes to get a backup striker in? Would you be happy with Chris Wood? What's your feelings in that position?
I think answering it in the long term, as in maybe 3 years plus, yes, Callum Wilson will need to be replaced. We've seen now it's injury prone. You're not really taking a gamble saying, oh, well, will he stay fit? Because he won't. He's just that type of player. He will be injured at some point. And a striker is obviously one of the most crucial positions, on the pitch. So yes, and sure, I think we do need to replace him. This window right now, yeah, I mean, João Pedro, I think he's not going to come in as an out-and-out striker, but he'd certainly help the attack, right and left wing as well. He'd be able to cover that. And just answering Black Mamba there in the chat, loans, I'd say we do need to make sort of more use of. I think either Conor Gallagher or Pulisic from Chelsea would be great additions as well.
That would be brilliant. I mean, Pulisic would be crazy. Don't think it'll happen, but I would love it to happen. It'd be brilliant. Max, I mean, same question really. The striker position, are you just resigned to Wilson going? And if so, what's your solution?
Yeah, probably Pedro and maybe another one. If he's more like a versatile forward, can play on any of the three positions up front. Maybe get one more I'll say Broja as a backup on loan if they want to let him go. But I don't know if they want to. It seems like they want to keep him for the season. But it would be nice to have someone with the Premier League experience. But it's hard to get someone like that this late in the window. Because now everyone just want to keep their player and keep on with the season, and they don't want to lose the players. Now you see with some of the bids that are flying in left, right, and center for players in the Premier League, they're really high, really overpriced, and we don't want to get dragged into that sort of bidding war. So a loan deal for a striker who's fit like Broja, quite similar to Wilson, would be ideal.
Black Mamba asked a really good question there about Elliot, and we'll discuss him when we look at the Tranmere Rovers match, because I'm sure we're all in agreement he hopefully will feature. Should he be given a chance if Wilson does inevitably get injured? What do you think about that? Would you like to see him in that advanced role position? He was able to get a good number of goals for Bristol Rovers. What do you think?
As far as I know, he's not a striker. I'm putting him in that position. I think would be unfair given his inexperience playing at all in for the starting 11. So no, I wouldn't put him there. If anything, you'd maybe put ASM there. I think we kind of did towards the end of that Man City game. It was like Wood was playing a more withdrawn role, and we just left ASM there to counter. So if anything, that's what we'll do if we don't get a striker in. But I would play Elliot though.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Bruce did. And I'm not advocating going with Bruce's ideas, but, certainly ASM, he played with a lot more freedom up there. It was just him. Has a tendency to get isolated, but perhaps there's an interest there. The thing that worries me about Wilson being injured is obviously, his goals he brings, but it's the other stuff as well. It's the fact that he links up so well with ASM, and I've seen a real difference in how he plays whenever Wilson's playing. The link up they have together is very, very strong indeed. And the amount of free kicks that he wins, something that, and I am not going to disparage Chris Wood to any great degree. I think he's a very, very below average Premier League, arguably top level of Championship player, which is fine. But the one thing I noticed is when they get the ball in advanced positions, Wilson will nearly always get something out of it, whether that's a chance, a goal, or possibly a free kick, whereas Wood doesn't always do that. And it's the ability, and he did it really well. Just one small example against City. On the halfway line, he got the ball, he's back into someone, just flopped on the ground and won a free kick. It was something Shearer used to do constantly, and just win free kicks and move the ball up the pitch, which is, again, another sign of how absolutely class he is. Just before we move on to Tranmere, we're going to have a wee tentative look at the rest of the window, as scary as that is, because it's going to be a long week, but an exciting week. I think deadline day should be really fun. January was certainly fun. We'll start with you, Max, and I suppose just give me one player. Well, I'm going to ask you for two players. I want one player that you think is a realistic addition for us to sign either on deadline day or before the transfer window closes, and I want one player who isn't realistic, but you would like to, you think you might get a chance of getting them. So if I give you an example for mine, I don't think we have any chance of getting Pulisic at all. He'd be my unrealistic one. I think he's a fantastic player, great forward player, can play all along the front, maybe not an out striker, but definitely can get you goals, can play left and right wing, very much suits Eddie Howe's style of play, works hard. I don't think we'll get him, but I love him. Realistic-wise, I think we'll probably end up with an obscure centre defensive midfielder from Europe, probably someone in the mould of, and that's a good thing, it's not a bad thing, like a Tiote type role and hold the ball up, someone to let Guimaraes move forward a bit more, because I think he's eager to get forward up the pitch there. I'm going to come to you in a minute, Max. I didn't reference this because you made a brilliant point, and it's something that I thought myself when it happened about the Man City match, about Guimaraes getting booked with 5 minutes on the clock. That's a brilliant point, and something that I completely forgotten about, but noted in the game. That is incredible that he stayed in the pitch practically the whole game in the role that he plays, being as combative as he is, and not picking up any more fouls, especially with that ref. So that was a really, really good point that you've made. So I'll circle back. Give me one player, Max, who you think we will sign, so that's a good sign, and one player you think you probably won't sign, but you would love to sign.
Whew, okay. I'm not gonna say Joao Pedro because that's a bit boring. So who can I say? I think I would love to see us sign. Who I think is realistic to get on loan would be maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi. I don't know how many suitors you have. I saw something on Bayer Leverkusen was interested today, and they play Champions League, so that's maybe more interesting. But if you want to develop more in the Premier League and show his qualities here, I would think he slots in at the right wing spot quite nicely. You need to challenge Almiron, of course. That's his starting position right now, but I think he would be a great addition and a realistic one. And for the maybe unrealistic one, should I say Conor Gallagher maybe? But I don't know if I'm gonna say him because he's a good player. I thought he had a decent game against Leeds, even though they lost quite largely. But if we do get more injuries in that midfield, the backup there is quite thin right now, and Gallagher would be a perfect player for that number 8 in case someone got injured, God forbid. So I would say him, and also he's a bit creative force. So
no, really, really good answers there, Max. Thanks very much. Joel, what about you?
I think one that's sort of quieting down the past sort of week, which I think will start a warm-up again, is Gonçalo Ramos. It's Benfica's last qualifying game for the Champions League tonight. So I think that might sort of resume, because at the time it was sort of like Benfica were apparently holding off until they finished the qualifiers, and there was a lot of talk around that. So I feel like that could be a possible realistic one. And then for unrealistic, it really depends on who Chelsea sign. If Conor Gallagher, if Chelsea aren't bringing in anyone in the midfield, then do I think we'll get Pulisic or Gallagher on loan? No. But if they do sort of bring someone in, I think that they'd be happy to give game time to either Pulisic or Gallagher at another club.
Would you be happy, Joel? Because there's rumours today about Everton having a look at Miggy if there was a bit of a merry-go-round. So you have Miggy goes to Everton, Anthony Gordon goes to Chelsea, and let's not say Pulisic because I think he's probably the clear best player there. Let's say Gallagher came to us. Let's say permanently. Let's call it that. Would you be happy with that? So losing Miggy, McGinn, and Gallagher.
I mean, losing Miggy would be very heartfelt, but I mean, if you were bringing in Gallagher permanently or even Pulisic, then possibly. But it's a hard one. I have to stick with Miggy at the minute. So
not to Everton. That's
true.
Not Everton. At least.
Yeah, you have to play under Lampard, and that'll be awful for him. He's been through enough. He's been under Bruce.
Send him to Spain instead or something. That would be nice.
I know. I don't disagree there. I think if it was Pulisic, I would drive Miggy myself as much as I love the boy. I'd drive him to Merseyside myself. If it was Gallagher, I'm not so sure. I think he's great. He's brilliant for Palace last year, but I'm not too sure. Ez, what about you then? And with your two players?
So I'll start with the unrealistic one. I'm going to say the word no one wants to hear, the P word, Paqueta.
Yeah. Do it. Yes.
I think it's unrealistic. I don't think he'll come. I think he will command too much of a salary, and I don't think we can afford to pay the transfer fee. Although there are rumours again from Luke Edwards about us being interested in Paqueta. But I don't think.
But Ez, hold on. He's Bruno's best friend. It's
I know.
obviously going to happen.
Exactly. Just get a discount for that, surely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my unrealistic one. Realistic. Mark my words. Actually, don't mark my words, but mark my words if it comes true.
No, they're done. It's too late.
Yes. Yeah. I actually think we'll sign James Maddison. I think it will happen on the last day.
Word.
I think it'll be a really exciting deadline day. There you go. Yeah, definitely clip it if it happens.
That'll be class.
Because apparently the Leicester owners want to sell. they want to sell the club.
That's
Maybe
right.
they want to recoup a bit of money before they sell the club. It's the last chance to make some money. I don't know. I think we'll go back.
Yeah. I mean, that would be fantastic. It really would be. Black Mamba says Diaby is the one I would want. He's class. That was quite an early transfer one that was on the card. I think we'd all love him, to be honest. He is properly Champions League class and can play a thing. You play on the right and left, but he definitely adds a ton of experience and also assists and goals as well. And Pedro being realistic as well. That was your one, Joe. Yeah, I'd forgotten about him, even though it was only a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, he looks very good. He certainly knows where the net is. I suppose I see him alongside what Ez is saying, maybe a striker to properly challenge Wilson and less of a sort of an understudy. It would be brilliant to see. So yeah, it's going to be a very exciting week, if nothing else. And I know we will be along. The NUFC360 Twitter page and podcast will be on top of all of it. And the last topic for tonight, gentlemen, is about tomorrow night's game of football. The League Cup second round against Tranmere Rovers. It's bound to be a different starting 11. I don't know if anyone will start. I suppose rather than me asking you for your entire starting 11, I'm going to ask you to pick. I'm picking two different players tonight. A lot of that tonight. One player you think will start that also started on Sunday and why. And then I want one player you think they'll start that did not start on Sunday and why. And I'm going to go to you as first because Max is going to get more time to think about it this time. So,
thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, so my starter, who I think might play tomorrow, is Botman, and that's because I don't think Fernandez is fit, as far as I know. No one knows if Fernandez. No one knows what's happened to Fernandez, and so we need someone to partner Jamal Lascelles. And on that left side, it's not going to be Dan Burn. I think Eddie Howe's already said it's not going to be Dan Burn. So I think what a great introduction to English football. Put Botman in with League Two, Tranmere. I don't think he's going to have to do very much anyway. So I think he'll probably still play in the Wolves game because he's not going to hopefully have too much to do. So Botman's my one for players who started. And in terms of players who haven't started, I'm going to nick the one that we're all thinking of, which is Elliot Anderson. Apparently he's chomping at the bit. Play him, see what he can do. Play him in midfield, and let's see if he impresses enough to potentially get on off the bench for the Wolves game, because I think everyone wants to see him. So yeah.
No, really good answers. Really good answers there. Don't disagree at all. Joe, what about you?
I'd say for the player who will remain in his position, probably Joe Linton. He's played for Win the Cup in the past. He's just a really sort of locked in spot in the centre. You're going to need sort of either him or Bruno, but I don't think Bruno will start. So I think it probably will be Joe Linton. And the player that'll start who didn't, I'll go for Kraft, because he actually was, in fairness, playing fairly well, but he was just, Trippier is obviously head and shoulders better than him. So I think he'll be given it a run out.
Max, what about you?
God damn it, Joel. I was supposed to pick Kraft. Yeah,
you stole the only Swedish player we have.
All right. Well, the player who started on Sunday, I think will start, is probably Willock, because he was the one of the midfield three who got subbed earliest. And I think with Joe Linton and Bruno playing the full 90, it would be wise to maybe give them a bit of a rest, and maybe they can come on. I would list Joe Linton in the second half if it goes bad, which I hope it don't, because otherwise we have a good midfield, a solid midfield of Longstaff, Willock, and Anderson. Would be nice to see. So, God damn it, Joel! I had a good speech for Kraft now. That worked out right back from Sweden.
It's fine.
No, I need to switch it up now. I'm gonna pick Lewis. I hope he starts. I haven't seen him play football for December last year, and from what I've gathered from the press conference today, I think he's fit. So maybe if he dares to play Dummett as a centre back with Lascelles, maybe pick Lewis, give Target a bit more rest for play him against Wolves. So I pick Jamal Lewis.
That's a great shout for Dummett.
It is a really good shout. He's a countryman of mine, so I'd forgotten he existed. I forgot he was about, which is quite bad. But no, I'd love to see that. For me, I was going to say Matt Ritchie because I seems to love him. So he was going to bring him on at the City game, which made me very worried. But then everything changed because it was an injury and Wilson had to come off and things like that. So maybe Matt Ritchie. I would love to see Lewis. That would be absolutely brilliant. So either Lewis or Matt Ritchie in that left wing back sort of role. Who I think will get picked. I don't know. It was a funny feeling that Joe Linton will start. I really do. I just think he's that presence. I know he started in the Oxford game, one of Eddie's first games. I know it was a bit of a disaster of a game, obviously. I think it might be a bit of redemption for him to go actually a bit of physicality in midfield. And if we are going to play Elliot Anderson alongside him, Anderson's a strong boy, but he's not Joe Linton. I think he'll need that physical presence up alongside him as well to let him go and rush forward and make those driving runs, which we know he can. But no, they're all really good answers, gentlemen. Black Mamba says Joe Linton as well. He's in the centre or midfield. Without him, it falls apart. And then Shar in defence. Shar's also a really good shout, actually. Played most of the games, actually. And we do have a lot of resources now centre back that we can utilise them really well indeed. What I wanted to know then from you guys is, I suppose, how you think we'll play, and I suppose I'm going to ask you what the result is in a moment or so. What I want to know is, what would you be satisfied with, both in performance but also result? I'm not saying what you think will happen. What would you be satisfied with? Because in the past that would have been scrape through, just win, don't care. That might still be the case, but I'm thinking about the City match and how much that is a statement result. Have your things now changed, or is your head maybe a bit like me, one of the big boys? Are you getting towards that? Are you just expecting to coast through? What would you be satisfied with? Max, what do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I would just be happy if you win the game and progress. But I would also like to see these players perform, or some of them maybe given the opportunity to show what they're about, like Anderson and maybe Longstaff, players who got a point to prove. And I know it's obviously Tranmere. I don't have a clue how they play, they're in League One, I think. So we should, even with this lineup, who I think is it's not the strongest, but it should beat the League One team, in my opinion. So I'm hoping for a good performance still, with the players showing, these players who are not regular starters, to really show what they can do, and maybe get a good result in the process.
They are League Two, actually.
League Two, okay.
That's all right. I definitely did not just Google it. I knew that already. They're League Two, and they missed out in the playoffs and didn't Google it as well, just about last year. Look, before I come to you, Joel, I think I do agree. I would, the jaded Newcastle fan of me just wants to win and doesn't care what happens or how it happens. I think my feeling on it is, and this is more coming down to the fact that Eddie's the coach now, I would like to see us play with an identity. I would like to see the players that are on the fringes impose themselves and make an impact, but I would like to see them slip into that system. And I think we saw that in pre-season with some of those, especially with the double-header game on the Friday and the Saturday at St James's Park towards the end of the summer, pre-season games, where you were seeing a lot of younger players playing, but they were playing within that system. And if we were going to be a big team, big 4, 5, 6, whatever team, we need to do what they do, and that is they can swap their whole team, part of their team, huge amounts of players in their team, and still play the same system. City, you can drop 4 or 5 players, but those 4 or 5 players that come in, yes, they're going to be great players, but they will fit into that system. They'll play with that same intensity, and that's kind of what I want to see. I want to win, but I want to see that high press, and I want to see that same consistency, because I think if we do that, we will win. We'll win comfortably, no matter who we're playing, but it was certainly against lower opposition than League Two. That's my point of view, but like you, Max, I do just want to win. Joel, what about you? What would you be satisfied with?
I think I'll speak on every sort of Newcastle fan here. We've been gagging for a good cup run for many years. So I feel like get a result, just progress through it. But I was going to sort of say similar to what you said about letting we see, the squad players, and that they're actually able to play under the way Eddie Howe plays. Because it's ever as prevalent now. The 5 substitutes. You need a good squad. All the big teams. City's second squad's just phenomenal. So it's like with the 5 subs, I would like to see the players who are given the opportunity to really take that and see that they can play under Howe's system, the pressure, the movement, the transition in the counter-attacks, even I think we'll be in control most of the game. But yeah, most important for me is the result. I just want to go through. I want a good cup run, but I would like to see a few good performances as well.
Yes, what about you?
Yeah, it's League Two Tranmere. I think you guys have already covered a lot of the points, but it's a League Two team. Our second team should be beating a League Two team. You've already said in pre-season, our back-to-back games, we had different 11s, but tried to play in the same style, and I think that will happen here. I think we'll have very much, if not a completely different 11, who will try and play in that 4-3-3, same style. But what more incentive do you need than 5 substitutes? I've got this potential to go on and come on in the Premier League. Massive incentive. I think the 5 substitute rule that's changed, I think it's really, really changed the game. It will have quite a big impact. So yeah, I expect that we're gonna win quite comfortably.
Well, I mean, on that note, Ez, I'm going to come to you now anyway. Score predictions. What do you think is going to happen, Ez? What's the score going to be?
Let's see. We'll win 4-0.
Oh, where's it there? See, that is a very actually reasonable prediction. It is reasonable. League Two Tranmere, as you're saying, and yet years of being a Newcastle fan, my instinct is to go, you're absolutely mad. We'll never win 4-0. Even though we won like 6-1 or something against someone a couple of years ago in the FA Cup, I think. I can't remember who it was. No, don't disagree there. Reasonable. Goal scorers, anyone? Random, but anyone stand out for you? You think will stand out?
I'm going to go Chris Wood hat-trick, and I'm just going to pray for him. I'm going to pray for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could happen.
Yeah, I
set
go
his marker.
3-1 win, Newcastle, hat-trick, Emil Kraft, and an own goal. So that's my prediction.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. 4 goals
Well,
for
keeping up
captain.
the hat-trick tradition, I might as well go with Elliot Anderson, and I'll go 3-0 Newcastle.
That's good.
Nice.
That's good. I think. Yeah. 3-0. I'm going 3-0 as well. I said we'd beat City on the preview. Said we'd win, and we obviously did not. But we were close. To be fair, what I said was 2-1 Newcastle, and at halftime I thought I'm going to look like a genius here. But obviously it did not end up that way. But yeah, like I say, it'll be an interesting match, if nonetheless. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along tonight and chatting. It was really, really enjoyable, and thank you very much for watching. For those with the comments, thanks so much. It really helps turn that conversation, discussion along. As I said before, please do like and subscribe. Help us grow the channel, please. We'll be back again at some point, I'm sure. But until then, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone. Good night.